Howdy, everybody, and welcome to the VRS Sprint Series. I'm Austin. I am joined by Tyler Maxson here at Barber Motorsports Park after a banger of a race in Bathurst. It's time to get where the track is a bit wider. And welcome back, Tyler, after your small 2-week break. Tyler, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great, Austin. How are you? Welcome back. And I'm super excited to be back, I should say, for this week of the VRS Sprint Series here at Barber Motorsports Park. And what a course to come back to. You guys were just down in Bathurst. Now we're here at Barber Motorsports Park. One of the best circuits in the U.S., in my opinion. It's a lot of fun. These GT3 cars may be a little bit too big for this track. On some people would say, but it does provide some pretty good racing. It's a pretty close racing because it does not allow for many mistakes in that aspect.
Yeah, the track is certainly wide enough to hold these cars, but there are aspects of the track where the racing's not really fitting good for these tracks. So we're getting ready for a few people to get onto the grid. Speaking of the grid, here is what your lineup looks like. It's Jaume Torres from Iberia starting up on pole with a 1 minute 18.719. That's a Tassai from Central Eastern Europe, just 0.09 of a second behind almost an entire 10th, starting with side by side. But 1, 2, and 3 all starting in their relative spots. They're followed by Andrew Ruse, Hendrik Fouras, David Toth, Mac Miller, Antonio Garcia, Antti Leavoska, George Lewis, Neil Cooper, Sasha Schneider, Chris Ferrangino, Andres Lanza, Zoltan Zamartor, Anton Pobreski, Daniel R. Dinsdale, James Salt, Michael Balonk, Louis Beebe, and Flory Denziller. With Tanner McCollin and Zachary Sears right behind.
That will be your grid of 22 cars. Sadly, Zachary Sears did not grid up for this race, so he will not be starting this race. He is not even in the pit lane, so he will not even start from the pit lane in this race. Unfortunate for him, he was one of the McLaren drivers of this field, so he will have to, well, he'll be forced actually to retire from this race, sadly enough. Let's look at the car logos because we usually don't get a whole lot of that. Look at the difference there. We have a McLaren on the pole. I think that's actually the first time we've had a McLaren on the pole all season long, alongside an Audi. Then Mercedes, just as usual, the dominant car in the field. The Audi's also out in strong today. I think that this is also the biggest field of McLarens that we've had. We would have had 3 if Zachary had started. We have 2 racing here today, though. The other driver of that being Louis Bibby.
Yeah, I think we had 4 at the very start when we hopped in here, but then somebody dropped out and switched into a different car. I didn't know that was possible, but they did that. But everyone, as they're coming through these ascent, the most difficult part of the track, especially over this crest, it's going to be one of the biggest impacting zones, and especially this long right-hander going up the hill, which sets you up for the front straight. And as the Porsche safety car pulls off safely into the grid, it's time to get ready to get rolling here at Barber Motorsports Park. And here we go. Green flag is in the air.
Torres gets a nice start. He's immediately, though, going to defend to the inside down into turn number 1. It's a very tight downhill corner here. You don't really want to go 2x2.
Sideways.
Oh, and he's off. Miller's almost off. He saves it nicely, though.
It got very dicey in the first corner. It looked like second and third got a little bit sideways, and Miller was just caught out of that. We're looking at it to the side. Tassi defending up to the inside, around the outside. Here comes Andrew Ruse around the outside in that Mercedes power, but Tassi holding down the inside right there. As everyone, it's close race 1 right here. It's always close on lap 1 here, especially through the drop-down chicane, which I'm surprised to not see any cautions come out of there. So everyone's taking it very cleanly here on lap 1.
see there. Cooper looking to the outside of George Lewis. He's not able to get it done, but that would have been a very opportunistic move. It's a very difficult place to make a move around the outside.
Yeah, looks like Chris is trying to get around the inside of Cooper on his inside along that long right-hander. Chris and Neil both on equal field right there, as here goes Neil Cooper up on the inside, heading into turn one. Can't appear. Oh, Chris has just been taken out.
Get a replay of that one. I'll try to cue that up really, really quickly. Let's get a replay of what happened here.
We were focused on that move up front, and I believe he was focused on it before. He was just taking it out, and oh, that's
Miller who got into him there pretty hard going into turn number one. It's a very easy place though to get into someone. It's like, it's kind of a corner where you're on a really hard braking zone, and it's not too easy just to quickly hit the brakes and get stopped. There is all the weight is on the front end of that car, and you're heading downhill, so it's definitely not an easy place to avoid an incident. But unfortunately, Chris is the one who loses out the most in that. The only BMW runner was up into about 12th place and is now down to 20th place. Unfortunate for him.
Yeah,
definitely
very
keep an eye on him.
very fortunate for the American BMW driver. I believe he's going to go into the pits and repair his car just a little bit, because definitely his car is damaged. As we're going up to Yoel Torres, up at front, comfortably in the front, just dropped down to a second gap to Tessie right behind him as he's making his way very smoothly. But Tessie setting in the fastest lap of the race, currently at a 1:19.266. And he is actually gaining on him. He just gained 3/10 on him in that first sector. So the Audi is coming into its own right now.
Yeah, the Audi is definitely an amazing car for this track. I have done some running in pretty much every single one of these cars at this track. I would say the Audi is definitely one of, if not the strongest car here. Maybe besides the Mercedes, I think would be the only one that could possibly top it. But Torres doing an amazing job to hold his own out there in the front in that McLaren. One of two drivers still running. Lewis Bibby is the other driver. He's done in 16th place. But Torres doing an amazing job for that McLaren, and really showing that the McLaren is not the underdog that most people think it is, at least not here at this Barber Motorsports circuit.
It has its strong tracks, and Barber Motorsports Park is one of its strongest tracks, and it's definitely showing it. It can pull away from the field and just have a dominating car handle, but the Audi in these corners is just so insane on how much it can close in. 4/10 separates now. A little bit of curve riding for Torres right there, as Tassi is just closing up along this right-hander. That Audi is just getting up there with him.
Audi really closing up on Torres there for the lead of the race. Torres is starting to do a little bit of blocking possibly. I think he knows that Tassi can really make a move from a long way back, especially with the brakes on that Audi. The brakes are just one of the best parts of it. You can really dive the car down into the corners, especially if you can catch the driver ahead braking a little bit early. You can really make an easy move. Check up a little bit now on 3rd and 4th. They're pretty much staying in line now. Andrew Ruse is in that 3rd spot. Hendrick with Toth just behind. Those two really close. Number 6, number 5 car currently sitting 4th and 5th in this race, and they have a 2-second gap back to Antonio Garcia. He's just a little bit over
Levoska. Yeah, Levoska and Garcia battling out for 6th right now. And they're also a Mercedes and Audi battle going on, so both of them have different strengths. Mercedes on the straights and Audi in the corners, but we're going to switch up back to the battle for the lead between Attila Tassi and Yamal Torres as they're heading down into Charlotte's Web.
Go Torres. He's getting closed in now by Tassi. He's doing an amazing job as Tassi to close that gap up to your leader. He's currently sitting at 6/10. He loses a little bit there out of Charlotte's Web, and is able just to kind of gain it back through that final sector. You can really tell that the McLaren is really quite good off the corners. And then the Audi just kind of has that cornering speed that the McLaren lacks, which really helps it work very well here in this final sector of the racetrack. This is definitely an interesting track, though. This is not really a GT3 track, in my opinion. So it's really nice to see these drivers out here in this series putting in a little bit different schedule than what you're used to with your traditional GT3 tracks. You kind of thrown in these weeks that, you know, it's really up in the air for who can win and what kind of car can win, and there's not just your standards Audi and Mercedes and a few Ferraris.
Yeah, Torres definitely favoring that McLaren. He definitely had this track in mind because he's just keeping everyone at bay, and I believe the McLaren is just so powerful on this track that if you have a very good understanding of Barber Motorsports parts, you can just dominate this track, but so does Tasai. Never count him out, as Tasai is following him extremely closely coming out of Charlotte's Web to go through the little kink of turn 6, heading into the drop down of turn 7, 8, and 9. Riding on board with the Audi right here. And I must say, as somebody who's driven here in the USF 2000 cars or to skip Barber cars right now, that drop down is so scary.
See, now that was my favorite part of this track. Whenever I drove here in the MX-5, it was just my favorite part of the track because you could just chuck the car in there and it was basically just hope it'll stick because if not, you're going into the gravel trap there on the exit. But it is so, that was my favorite part of the track.
That was my least favorite part, but that was because of practice I flipped it.
Oh. Well, I will have to say, I did never flip the car, so I'm sure if I rolled the car at that corner that I probably wouldn't have liked it, but for having not rolled the car, I always kept it on 4 wheels in that section. It was a really fun section. This whole track is really fun. Not the best track to race at, in my personal opinion, but definitely one of the most driven at. It's pretty much like a roller coaster going around this place.
Oh, it's definitely a roller
so
coaster track. Definitely a roller coaster track. You're always going up, down. We actually got a lapped car. That's Neil Cooper.
No, that is Michael here. That's a lot of damage. He must have put it in the wall somewhere.
Okay, I was getting that. Okay, my trading paints was confused. Make it trading paints. Thought that was a Fury Synsport car for some reason.
Once we kind of get a little bit of a slow point in this race, and just before the pit stop phase, we'll go back and we'll take a look at the start and just kind of see. But this battle is definitely starting to heat up, so you don't want to go anywhere. Hendrick also looking all over the back of Andrew now, and I think that was Toth getting a little bit optimistic, trying to make a move. It's 3 Mercedes, so they're all pretty much equally balanced on performance. Now it's all down to the drivers. This battle is a nice 3-car battle for that is up to 3rd place in this one, but they have 3 seconds back to Tassi and Torres, so the chances of them catching are very slim as Tassi and Torres really start to battle. Which actually, speaking of that, Tassi is closing the gap. It's down to 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, these guys are front nose to gearbox right now, both of them with rear engine cars, unlike a Mercedes. As they're flying down straight into the drop down, hopping over these curves right here. But that McLaren out of the corner is just way too powerful for that Audi to close in on.
Well, the Audi really has to rely on its strengths through this final sector in turn 1 and 2, because he really just can't get them out of Charlotte's Web and down through the downhill section. It's pretty much impossible for Tassi to catch him unless he makes a mistake. So his best hope is that he closes the gap in this final sector here and is able to get by him going down the next straightaway down into the first of hairpin in Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, I believe this battle is going to go all the way into the pit stop, and we saw this last week. Well, I saw this last week. You weren't here unless you watched the replay in Bathurst, where Tasai got in the position by doing the overcut in the pit in the pit stop window, so we might see that happen here today, as there's a gaggle of cars on the front straight going side by side. Heading into turn 1 up the inside. That's Zalt on Schneider. And Zalt getting that position easily. And everyone getting through there cleanly. And this looks just like lap 1, but no, this was lap 8.
Yes, we're actually 8 laps in already. Wow. Only 11 minutes into this 40-minute race here. It is a sprint race for these drivers. And it is considered a sprint series here on iRacing for the VRS Sprint Series. In the GT3 cars, one of the only series at the B-class level as far as GT cars go. Actually, the only series of the B-class level that is a single class series. Actually, I think it's one of the only series in iRacing that iRacing officially puts on with GT cars that is a single class.
I believe you're right. Pure GT racing here in Barber Motorsports Park, and I want to address that Desai was flashing his lights at Torres, so he obviously was not happy at something that Torres just did when we switched back to him. I believe there might have been a little bit of a very close contact between the two. Also, Desai has been off track 5 times.
Okay, so that is something Desai wants there. But there is one thing that I will say, though, is that he also could just be letting him know, you know, don't block or anything. I'm not going to pass you right now. Let's just continue to pull away. Or he could be unhappy with something that he did, which is the more likely scenario, knowing Desai and how quick he is, and he always wants to get as far up to the front as he possibly can. So I doubt he's going to sit behind Torres for much time. If he has an opportunity to get by him, I really do think that he'll take it.
Well, these two are in a class of their own right now, 4 seconds ahead of the pack behind. And that pack behind, they're in a 3-way battle for third. Ruse, Forrest, and Thought. All of these guys in that McLaren bunch, Mercedes bunch. Oh, Desai up the inside! Trying to make a move coming up into turn 1 as they go around the long right-hander right here. Desai trying to use the Audi brakes to his advantage, but coming up with the Charlotte's Web, we might see Desai send it up to the inside right here.
I just don't think he was trying to make that move. I think that he was actually caught out just a little bit there by a mistake by Torres. I think that he really did mean to send it down the inside, but if he could have made that one work, it would have been a beautiful move. But unfortunately, not able to make that work, so Desai will have to try and continue to close him back down and go back by him again.
Yeah, it is the first. It is very confusing to see a move being sent this early on in the race. We're the first half of this race. Around 25 minutes into 30, we're going to start seeing the pit stops come out, and that point is where the strategy is going to come out. Now, we saw Desai do the overcut last week. Can he do it this week, or will he try to go for the undercut on Torres?
Now, that is something that we'll have to wait and see. I think that Bathurst, it is a bit easier to make the overcut work, because if your driver ahead can get caught up in some traffic and you can have a clear track for a lap, then you can really gain a lot of time, but also that can come back to bite you as Tassi gets really sideways there coming off of turn 1. He saves it nicely, though. And is able to continue.
That back end was extremely loose in the braking zone and coming out of there, but great recovery by Tassi right there.
Checking on another battle on the racetrack. Antonio Garcia and Neil Cooper. Currently headed there by Cooper, and this is for the 7th spot on the racetrack. The gap's pretty much maintained at 4/10. And I think that's one thing that I've been seeing throughout this race so far, is that once these drivers get to about 4/10, it's hard to close up those last few tenths of a second to get to the driver ahead, especially around that last sector. That's where you can really make or break it. If you can get through there good, then you can really close up, but if not, then you're not going to be able to really do much about it.
Yeah, this is the reverse Bathurst problem. Bathurst, there is little spots to overtake because the track is so tight. In Barber, the track is extremely wide, but there's little overtaking opportunities to get the car set up the inside or using any brakes to your advantage, and it's all about closing that gap. But once you get very close behind a car, it's going to be extremely hard to get around any other cars, as we are watching Torres and Tassi is battling for first for the past couple of laps right now as they start out the 12th lap.
Yeah, just said it's so hard to pass here. It's also one of those easy tracks for the driver on the outside just to hold it around the outside and have the inside now then for the next corner, because if he can hold it on the first one and you're not able to slip ahead, then he will have the inside line for the second corner and make it very, very difficult for anyone to overtake.
Yeah, if you hold the outside momentum going onto the straight, you will just have the advantage. And most of these corners, it's not a hairpin going into a hairpin like you see on some circuits. This is a hairpin going into a drop down, going into a chicane, going into a long straight, going into a rising crest, and then a long turn. And when you hear these together, you're like, oh, okay. But when you see them on track in these elevation changes, it is so hard to get cars around one each other. That's what makes the start so important here. And Torres is just defending massively from Tsai. And Tsai, I think he might be getting a little bit frustrated, but this will definitely come down to pit stops.
Oh, for sure we'll come down to the pit stops now. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tsai possibly either try the overcut like you were saying, or maybe even try the undercut and see if he can undercut Torres if he knows that he has more pace, but is getting held up by that McLaren. And I think that he could definitely make that undercut work and possibly be able to come out into the lead with a comfortable lead if he really does have the pace. But there's always a gamble there. We see Lewis dive. Oh, Lewis is stopped on the front straight. Let's get a replay there of what happened to Lewis.
This might have been a spin, just getting onto the grass a little bit. Well, he's on the grass. Coming, yeah, that's just a driver error.
Yeah, they pulled it really, really hard back. And wow, that was avoidance by those drivers. Great job to avoid it. Here's a battle, though. We're jumping right back into one. This is the battle for 12th.
Side by side, Schneider and Pawlowski. They're heading side by side into drop down. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? Two Mercedes side by side, but it's going to be Pawlowski around the inside getting that advantage. I think there's car contact behind them. We see Lewis Bibby battling with Lanza, but Lanza is going to be let ahead in that beautiful Ferrari.
Yeah, Lanza will get ahead of Bibby, and it was Bibby and Lanza, I believe, who did make that contact. And I think that Lanza was then
extremely close. And look at Bibby, that fishtailing McLaren coming out of the crest. That back end is so loose for Bibby right there. Colin in that deep blue racing car. He's trying to chase down that pack right here.
He's close in a lot on them. Currently sitting at 16th. He's up 5 spots from his starting position. We definitely don't count him out. He's not too far off this pack, and he's been closing up on them. Also keep an eye on Chris here in the BMW. It's really closed up these last few laps.
Now remember, Chris was involved in that early race incident in turn 1 where he was just absolutely murdered. He stayed in the race. You see that back end damage for him of where his entire right wheel was exposed, and he's held it in there and stayed in 17th. He was down in 20th, so he's putting on a good show right now.
Putting on a great show. Actually, speaking of the green flag, let's jump back to when the green flag was thrown, and let's kind of get a replay of what happened then for that start here at Barber Motorsports Park. I want to go ahead and try and see what happened here with Chris and see how this happened for him in turn number 1.
It wasn't at the very start of the race. It was around lap 3, but he was watching the fight ahead of him, and a car came out of nowhere, which I believe was Mac Miller, that just lost it right there. Yeah, Mac Miller also lost it at the start. There was a car sideways at the start. I believe that was Mac Miller just recovering from it. But in this tight field, in a place where overtaking is scarce, you're definitely going to see guys try to sending stuff up the inside, last ditch effort. Gets into the grass. full sent it into the grass.
Yes.
Yeah. Luckily, it kept the point straight.
Let's jump back live, though. We have a battle going on here between Chris and McLeod. Not able to make the move done, though. The Audi, though, has the strength down the straightaways over that BMW. They're not going to go side by side through the downhill section.
Yeah, smart driving by both of them. One of them already has damage, and they're just going to drive it smart and wait for the pit stops as Desai has got into the lead. I believe that we were looking at the replay when Desai got into the lead. So here we go on to that overtake right now.
So let's take a look here at what happened. Let's see how Desai got himself up into the lead of this race. Did he get into the back of him? Because they are quite close. Oh, no, he just sent it down the inside. Now that was a move. You don't hardly moves in that last corner like that, but he made that one work.
That was a scary move by Desai. He locked in his bumper on the back of Torres, and then he did what I usually do in Skip Barber, where I position my car up the inside and say, I'm going to send it, you better give me room. And Torres gave him room, and then Desai actually sent it.
Yeah, he really did there.
Great battling, great clean battle between the two, and Desai is your new leader here at Barber Motorsports Parks. But that was before the pit stop, so we're going to actually see what happens here. But he has a second lead over him right now, so I believe he's got this pretty much locked in, and he will be the benchmark on to where to go into the pits. Speaking of pits, we are halfway through the race right now. 23 minutes running in of this 40-minute race.
And I would not be surprised if we see Torres jump in a little bit before Tassi, kind of try and engage him and see when he's going to jump in as James Salt goes into the pit lane. He will be the first of your pitters here that don't have damage. So he's the first one to pit that has not had some sort of issue that has caused them to pit. So he's pit on his own power. And we'll see where kind of he cycles out in comparison. I think he was up in that top 10 battle. Not 100% sure, though. We'll try to keep an eye on where he comes out and see if we can figure out where he was before that.
Oh, that's Tanner McCollin sitting in the sand. That's out of turn one. And got into the grass.
I think, oh no, he didn't even get into the grass. He just lost it in the middle of one and then looped it into the inside barrier. Such an easy thing to do, as Garcia has gotten by Cooper. So Antonio Garcia has just gotten by Neil Cooper, and now he's pulled a 0.4 of a second advantage. We know how hard it is to pass here, so it is going to be quite a feat if Cooper can get back by him, close that gap back up, which he has maintained it, luckily, so he should be able to close that gap back up, but he is starting to lose a little bit there as he got a little bit sideways on the last corner.
Yeah, Neil Cooper and Antonio Garcia, both of them driving in the Audi, so it's just all up to drivers as they're following each other as we're about to pass the 25-minute mark. Louis Bibi is now in the pits.
So Bibi into the pits.
Lewis was already in the pits.
He was already in the pits. I'm just trying to keep an eye on here where Salt comes out, because I think he was right up in that battle with Bibi. So Bibi is still sitting in the pit lane. Let's keep an eye on where Salt comes out. He's definitely going to jump Bibi here. So I think he may be a little bit ahead then.
I think Bibi might be having a little bit of repairs going on. Because usually pit stops in this series are much faster than Bibi, so he might be fixing something on his car or settling something in real life that had to go into the pits for that.
Yeah, definitely all possibilities here. The gaps have started to really extend. The closest gaps right now, the closest battles on the racetrack here are between Toth and Hendrick, and also Garcia and Cooper. The battles on the racetrack right now, they are pretty large at 0.8 of a second, but they will definitely start to close up after the pit stop phases, and everyone has to come in and the race is neutralized just for a moment, whether that be they come in at the 25-minute mark or up to the 30-minute mark. That'll pretty much be the end of when we'll see drivers coming in. but some drivers will even extend it all the way out to the 35, but that is very, very rare that we see that.
Yeah, we almost saw that in Bathurst, I believe. A few drivers just fuel saving because they're following behind people. Then they just had extra fuel, then just sent it with that lap. And I believe Desai was one of the guys that just absolutely had the power to do that.
And actually, though, last lap, Torres put in a purple lap. So he's the fastest man on the racetrack last lap at a 19.3. And he was 9/100ths faster than Tassi then on the last lap. That is all Tassi needed, less than a 10th to go fastest of the race. But right now, Tassi is really starting to extend the gap as he actually.
Well, he just took it back. He just took it back. The gap between the fastest laps was 1/100th of a second, and now it's down to 500ths of a second, separating first and second fastest lap. It's now a 1925 from the 1930, and that last lap for Torres was way slower than Tasai's lap.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot slower there. Well, we say a lot slower. It was actually still less than a 10th and 8/100ths of a second slower. So not too much slower there was Torres and Tassi, but Tassi's still faster nonetheless, and he gained almost about a 10th there over Torres in the end.
Garcia and Cooper in the battle for seventh. Not really much of a battle. Cooper actually just went off the track, but he's gaining on Garcia. So some track extending will help you on this track, but too much will get you disqualified as Lanza has the most off-track penalties at 10 right now.
It still is actually pretty low for this series. Only in 10 off tracks is definitely not too bad for those drivers, because just knowing how the circuit it is kind of off-track heavy, especially if you make a mistake through turn 1. It's very easy to make a mistake, or through the fast chicane. You could really easily lose that gap. It's Andrew Ruse and David Toth. Ruse down the inside. He's trying to get by Toth here.
Ooh.
Actually, Toth is trying to do the over-under on both of them there.
They're going almost went 3 wide, coming out of Charlotte's Web, and now they're going 3 wide. What the heck just happened right there? Toth sent it up into 4th place from 5th place, forced the 5th place car of Bruskith all the way down to 5th, and now he's in the clutches of Livoska in 6th place.
There's also a lap car in the middle of that, the number 21. So
that was
keep that in mind as well. But he did squeeze out 5th, I do believe. I do believe you are correct about that one, but the lap car was able to get in the middle of them.
I say correct that was the 5th car I was talking about. That was the lap car
here. Actually, is really the battle for 3rd right now is really, really heating up here between Ruse and Toth. This will definitely go down to the pit stop phases, and it looks like the drivers are going to extend it all the way out to at least the 30-minute mark here, maybe even closer to the 35. So is this a track where drivers are easily able to fuel safe? That's what we'll have to see. And also keep up their good pace, because the drivers are definitely not lacking on the pace right now, but they're able to go quite far into this race.
They're long sweeping corners. You can lift off the car and just let it roll through there. So that's a technique that we learned, where you can just lift off and this car just coast through there, and you can just be easy on the throttle and Desai might be doing that right now. His car is not roaring as loud as it can, because Torres is actually closing in on him, but I believe Torres might be on his in-lap right now.
Torres may very well be on his in-lap here in that McLaren. Let's see if he dives into the pit lane. No, he's not. He's going to stay out for another lap. So these guys are going to go at least now to almost the 32-minute mark until they'll come into the pit lane. So I'm guessing that we're going to see them about the 35-minute mark. Will anyone try the no-stop strategy and have fuel saved enough that they don't have to do any stops whatsoever?
It's got to be Toth or Ruse. The guys are 3rd. They've been running so close to each other. If Toth is just sitting behind Ruse, and he's doing it on purpose. My money's on Toth for the no-stop strategy.
It would be interesting to see if he could. I'm just kind of looking at lap times. He is running decent lap times, just about half a second off these front drivers. But if he's running in a really high fuel map, half a second could be all that he needs. If he can pull off that kind of strategy, that would be incredible. We do know the Mercedes is a little bit difficult to fuel save in. It's definitely not impossible, but it is a little bit more difficult to save fuel in than I've found than, say, the Audi or the McLaren. I found that they just be a little bit easier to save that little bit more fuel on. But I think that Torres now is maybe on his in lap because he's losing a lot of time. It's down. It's up to 2.3 seconds.
Yeah, Tassi definitely on his in lap right now as timing showing Chris in the lead. And here goes Torres.
I think that was just a glitch there. He just was in the pit lane and it was glitching out, showing that he was out of the race. But Tassi still keeps on going. Torres is into the pit lane. Ruse will keep on going. Toth will keep on going. Hendrick dives in. So it's going to be right now Tassi, Ruse, and Toth. That'll be your top three. But whenever they all cycle back out, Torres will be put in that second position if none of these drivers have found a way to do the no-stop strategy. I haven't seen anyone do it yet this season, but I do know it is possible. But Tassi is going to have to possibly deal with some of these lapped cars here very, very soon.
Yeah, I see the lights flashing from the Audi. If he's on his in-lap, he wants it to be as clean as possible, or if he's trying to fuel save as much as possible, because he was behind Torres for a while. He might have done enough fuel saving as he can, but behind these laps, guys, if he wants to keep the fuel up, he will definitely just stay behind them and not get around them urgently. But he's pedal to the metal right now, flying past these guys.
Yeah, he's really not wasting any time there.
Backing down a little bit loose right there.
Audi. I don't quite know who that was, but he is now able to get by Chris.
That was Tanner McCollum.
Okay, so he is able to get by Tanner McCollum quite easily. There is, wow, he gets sideways all to the last corner. And I don't think he's wanting to do that much.
Yeah, stayed out for another lap, and Toth stayed out for another lap, as well as Ruse goes into the pit lane, as strategy is all coming down to right here.
Just keep an eye on the lap times. Tassi right now matching pace with Toth. I think that was due to those lap cars and him getting completely sideways out of the last corner, but nonetheless, he is still just about on pace there. So we'll see if Toth is actually doing the no-stop strategy, because if he's able to pull that off, then he would easily take the race win in that scenario, because that is a large gap
He just
that
had
would need to be caught there.
I believe he just set a personal best in Sector 2 for him. So he's going much faster than he usually is. And I believe Toth I think he was fuel saving for the entire race. And now that he's been let loose, I think we might see that as our timing screen's messing up. Don't worry, just Tassi's in the pits. This is where the race can be turned onto its head.
Let's keep an eye on Toth, though. Let's see if he dives into the pit lane as well. But I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to... Oh, no, he does dive into the pit lane, so he dives in. Now let's keep an eye on Torres. This is the driver battling Tassi for the lead. Tassi gets in, and he is now going to just now be stopping at his box here very soon. There we go. He stops at his box.
Torres coming around the last corner, down the front straight. Tassi is in the pit exit, and Tassi is going to keep the lead. And he extended the gap and all that to 4.1 seconds. He gained 2 seconds through that whole one. Now let's see where Toth comes out in comparison to Ruse. Toth will jump Ruse in the pit stop, so the overcut has worked a treat again for these drivers. Yeah, Toth set that overcut up just by sitting behind Ruse and just setting his time in to save at least one more lap of fuel more than Ruse, and we are sadly not going to see that one stop in work here today for the leaders. I think some other drivers are trying it. Tinker, he's trying it, and Florian Densler haven't heard much of him today. He's moved up 11 spots because he has not gone into the pits.
So let's see if he's able to fuel save. It seems like he's driving decently slow. In order to make that happen, yeah, that would be guess there. Someone just posted in our YouTube chat, supposedly Tassi is a World TCR driver this
Yes,
year.
he is.
So
Yes,
a real world racing driver in here in the series, and he's definitely performing well.
He's been having very great success in this series in all of our broadcasts. I don't believe he's recorded a win yet, so this will be the first time on our broadcast this season that he will be winning a race if he stays this with no consequences. But with that 4-second gap, he can chill a little bit.
Yeah, you can definitely kind of calm it down just a little bit here, because I think that there's only going to be about 3, maybe 4 more laps left in this race. I'm assuming more towards the 3-lap side left in this race before we kind of finish out here. So he doesn't have too much time there, but one driver you got to keep an eye on here, Torres. He's closing that gap up. He just made a mistake and lost a little bit there, but he was really closing that gap up. So if there's anyone who could battle Tassi right now for the lead, it's going to be Torres.
Yeah, Tassi can chill, but not chill that much. 4 seconds is an eternity for all drivers of the world, so we all know how long 1 second behind a car is, but 4 seconds, that's just a gold mine of a gap. And it may not seem long, but when you're on the track, it does seem forever, and Tassi is actually pulling away, but he's going to be managing himself and just taking easy through a few of these corners that this Audi is a little bit squeamish through, as we saw the back end getting loose on him a lot. So he goes a little bit off track, but stays on it right there. So asserting his dominance as the #1 car here on track.
He's actually #2 as far as I rating goes, but he is definitely one of the fastest, if not the fastest driver on the racetrack. He currently holds fastest lap of the race, but it's not by much. It's by 1/100ths of a second. So it's pretty much just about as close as you want to get there. And that is one thing about this Barber Motorsports Park track. It's only a 1 minute 19-second lap time, so the drivers are automatically just going to be so much closer than they would be at, say, a Spa or something like that as far as qualifying times and race times go, just because of the fact that it's such a short track. There's very little room for error, and every driver is going to be just that much closer.
In a 79-second lap, a lot of things can go wrong, but to be that faster than somebody in a 79-second lap is very impressive.
Yes, very, very impressive indeed, especially whenever it's that close. That just shows the level between these two drivers, that they are just that close. I mean, they have nothing in between them, and it's really about who can just put it together over the course of the race. Obviously, fastest lap to fastest lap, there's nearly nothing. It's all about who has the best race pace and who can manage their tires the best. They head their way through this 40-minute race, as there is no tire changes in this race. They're all down to the fact of how you can manage your car and manage your tires, and if you can, how you can manage your fuel to get the best strategy possible.
Yeah, and as we are on the last lap, Tassi is navigating through a few lapped cars, but he's going to be enjoying this in-lap as he's 4.5 seconds ahead of Torres, who I believe has stopped trying to attack and accepted second place right here, as Tassi has a few more corners to go. Tanner just ahead of him, who has not gone into the pits, and he will do a no-stop race today. But coming across the final corner and across the line, taking the win here at Barber Motorsports is Attila Tassi.
He gets the win there. Torres is going to come home in second. Toth is going to come home for a brilliant third place. And Giroux will round out your fourth spot, and Hendrick will come home in fifth. So that is your top 5 there.
Loska coming down in 6th place. He had a all-right race for him. Moved up 2 spots. Antonio Garcia qualified 7th and finished 7th, so very solid for him. Neil Cooper Number 18 car moved up 2 spots, and that is a good finish for your compadre, another Fury Sport car. As James Salt moved up 8 spots.
Yeah, a lot of spots moved up. I think he is the biggest mover of the race. Yes, he is. He is the biggest mover of the race. So James Salt claim the Art Charger Award here.
These guys we haven't seen most of this race as we were focusing on the guys up front. Now, Tanner McCall, he is doing something that we thought we'd never see this series. I think he just ran out of fuel. But he has not gone into the pits, and he's going to finish in 15th. That
is going to finish at 15th, so
completely out of
he's the second biggest mover, but he did finish it. Unfortunately, had some of the damage. I think he probably could have actually had a top 10.
Oh, yeah.
Had that not have happened. Let's quickly run through these race results.
Yeah, taking the win, Attila Tassi wins the race, followed by Jamal Torres, David Toth, Andrew Ruse, Hendrik Fruris, Antti Lavoska, Antonio Garcia, Neil Cooper, James Salt, Zatari Zamotort, Anton Peperowski, Daniel R. Dinsdale, Andres Lanza, Chris Ferrangino, Tanner McCullen, Florian Densler, Sasha Schneider, Michael Bologna, Louis Beebe, George Lewis, Mac Miller, and Zachary Sears, who I don't think did one lap.
I don't think that he did either. Sorry that we are going to have to kind of rush off just a bit quickly here in this here today. I do have to make a very quick jump over to the BSR Series live on the iRacing Esports Network here in just 15 minutes time. So we're just quickly going to wrap up the broadcast and make sure to join us over there very, very soon for some MX5 action across the pond in Zolder in Europe. So it should be an absolutely amazing race.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Tyler, for that. And I hope you guys enjoyed that race. We'll be here next week. Same time, same place. I've been joined by Tyler Maxon. I'm Austin Knight, and I hope y'all have a great night.